Welcome to the VGC podcast. My name is Christopher Knowles, and today we are talking about how to stand out in different positions. I made a video that went up on TikTok that talked about how to stand out as a libero, and everyone else and in all the other positions wanted to know how they can stand out in their position as well. So, we're going to answer about middles, outside hitters, and right sides today. So, let's dive straight in. Can you talk about how to stand out as a middle blocker and hitter? So, I've played with some pretty amazing middle blockers. We have an amazing middle coach in the community that is a USA U21 player and all that amazing stuff. And something that I've noticed from him and a lot of other amazing middles that I've played with is middles who are great are always active. So like most of the time when middles aren't really getting set that much, it'll hurt their ego, it'll hurt their confidence, and that'll really affect their transitioning off the net and actually working hard to be effective even though they're not getting set. So I think as a middle, especially when you're younger and it's a lot harder to get you the ball because it is not a super high level set to set the middle, but it is probably the most difficult set to make as a setter is running your middle very often. But especially as a middle, you can do so much more for your team outside of hitting. And so that's why I just said being active in general. And what I mean by that is like transitioning hard off the net every single time. Even if you know you're not getting set, making a hard transition can make it a lot harder for the middle on the other side and make them think, oh, he might actually get set or she might actually get set. And so when you transition hard every single time, then you become a possible option to a block every single time. And the ways, and then every single time you make that big transition off and you make a hard approach and you're calling your set really loud, even if you know you might not be getting it, that helps alleviate maybe and even cause some one-on-one blocks for your pin hitters, which is kind of attributed to you because you are making the middle bite on you and get sold on you when you know it wasn't even getting set to you in the first place. So I know that's a little bit of a dragged out answer, but just always being active of transitioning hard off the net every single time the ball is live and acting like you're going to get set every single time, because when you make that big transition and when you make a hard approach, you're going to get the middle to bite on you a couple times, which leaves your pins one-on-one, which overall makes the team more successful, and that's what matters most, right? So being more active as a middle is where you can definitely stand out of transitioning hard off the net and approaching really hard and getting middles to bite on you even if you know you're not getting set, and alleviating that pressure on your pins and making them go one-on-one, which is really what we want. What about outside hitter? So now moving kind of into the outside hitter, I've played with some really great outside hitters. I've played with hitters that are at UCSD now. I have played with other players who are at pretty big colleges. We have a outside coach in the community that is at GCU. And something that I've learned from all of them is they're all able to hit and block and do those things. But something that really sets them apart is passing, right? Passing as an outside, I think, is so key, because if you can not only pass great serves and super tough serves, but also make athletic dives and great defensive plays, that's going to help you so much in especially the college aspect, because as an outside, you're expected to kind of play all six rotations. Like for a 6-2, you can sub out an Oppo if they're not good at back row and just run a 6-2, right? But as an outside, there's no really rotation that I know of that's run very often that has outsides not playing in the back row, you know? So as an outside hitter, like, yes, if you're able to hit and block, that's amazing and be super effective on the net. But where you can kind of take that edge and take that advantage is being effective in the back row, not only with service, even being able to take super difficult serves like super difficult floats or jump serve, but also being athletic and being able to stay neutral, make athletic plays on defense, and keep the game alive. So that's pretty the simplest thing, but it's simple to hear that, but it's hard to implement the just become an amazing passer, right? So just work on being an unstoppable defender and really effective in serve receive, of being able to pass really difficult serves, because there are going to be people who can bomb balls as you get to the college level. But then obviously, of course, being an effective hitter and blocker, that obviously needs to be set in stone from the get-go. How to stand out as a right side. So coming from an opposite, I am an opposite of a first team All American opposite, and I think I'm gonna only really speak from my experience here, because I've done some pretty cool things at the opposite position. But to get to the level of first team All American, from that to a freshman opposite that doesn't really know what's going on, I think the biggest changes that I had, especially being, I would say being left-handed helped a little bit, but right-handed opposites can still do the exact same thing that lefty oppos do. And I would say the three biggest things that come to mind for me where I excel, and I think that really helps my part of my game and being effective against like great players, is essentially three things. One is being a really effective blocker. Two is being able to hit multiple shots as an opposite. And then three is being a leader and always being ready, right? That might be four separate things, but being a super effective blocker in your eye sequence and how you see the hitter and how you see the set, and being able to shut down big hitters. Hitting as in hitting multiple shots, and not only just being able to hit line or only angle, having line and angle. And as a lefty, being able to hit on the outside, right? And for right-handeds, getting used to hitting on the right side as a righty, right? Something that I think has really unlocked my potential in my game is being able to hit on the outside, because that makes it a lot more effective to have three hitters instead of two in row one when you're having to hit on the outside, especially as a lefty, and then vice versa for righties on the on the right side. Just having those shots available to you that most other hitters don't, and then being able to hit deep corners, right? Not having to bounce every single ball, deep corners, cross, deep shot, tips, rolls, being able to hit the off blocker. All of those shots can really help you stand out. But then also leading and always being ready. It's essentially the same thing as the middles, that like you might not be the star of the show on your team, but how you get to that point is by always being ready. Something that I've really mentally been working through recently is always reminding myself that, like, hey, I might not have gotten the last 10 sets. Like, that's happened to me where I won't get 10 sets in a row. I might not have gotten those 10 sets, but I can't let that affect my blocking, right? Sometimes I'll just kind of be out of it, of like, oh, like, because me personally, I'm very much like motivated and driven off hitting. So if I'm getting set a lot and I'm putting balls away, or just even getting set in general a good amount, I'm going to be more motivated to do all the other parts of my game. And something that I've noticed as an oppo, especially for me personally, is I need to stay motivated even if I'm not getting those sets, and motivated to block and motivated to play off blocker correctly, right? Because sometimes I would take those blocking plays off and those off blocker plays off, or whatever it might have been, and that just affects the overall outcome of the team, because I got tooled or it went off my hand when I wasn't ready on the off block, and those points matter, right? So staying ready, even though if you don't get set for maybe even a whole set, just making sure that you're still holding your own and doing the things that matter, like being an effective blocker. It's like, hey, I'm not getting set a ton, that's totally fine. I'm going to go be the best blocker on the team right now. Or I'm not getting set a ton, I'm going to be really great at defense, or picking those nasty off the hand balls up and things like that. So, especially for the Oppo, staying ready, not letting the fact that you're not hitting get in the way of the other parts of your game, but then also leading. I think from my perspective, it's really not unheard of, but it's very rare to see the opposite being the leader of the team, because it's not easier, but you mostly see the outsides of the setters being the leaders of the team, because the setters kind of run the whole show with running the offense, right? They set their hitters and they play defense, and then outsides are more than likely going to be the leaders because they do it all. They serve, they pass, they hit, they block, they do everything. But I think if you can stand out in your skill sets, as in hitting and in blocking and being able to always be ready, And also that other end of the stick with the hitting is always being able to take the trash sets, right? That's how I was brought up is, hey, the opposites were made to take the chaos balls or the out of system sets or the not so great sets that the setters just throw back to you, and you have to put it down in some way or cause chaos on the other side. So that's the other end of the stick of the hitting side, is being able to take non-perfect balls and make a great scenario out of it for your team. And I think once you master those parts of the game of being an efficient blocker, being able to hit on all different spectrums of hitting perfect balls, but also hitting on the outside, hitting on the right side, hitting multiple shots and different shots, and being able to take those trash sets and still putting them away and still being able to be an effective server. Once you kind of have those in line, then I think you can step up into a leadership role, which is that next level thing that's huge, right? Because if you are someone that is still growing and developing and learning, but you've mastered kind of those core principal things that an opposite needs to do, then you have that opportunity to be like, hey, I can lead others, help motivate others, right? Because it, as an opposite, like I talk about the setters running the offense, middles running the block, and the liberos running the defense. As an opposite, you don't really have anyone to lead, right? It's kind of you and the outside are the only other pins, but you can't even really lead the outside. So I think as an opposite, the more you can be a hype man of like celebrating other people's success more than your own, can really, one, help yourself stay motivated to wait it out and wait for your set to come, but then also motivating others to actually build up the energy of the team and help the team overall win, which is the end goal. And if you can help contribute to that success of the team and the buildup of energy in the team without needing to get set or get a block, and you're only getting block touches, but you're keeping your serve in, but you're building energy without even needing to really contact the ball, that's huge. And that's huge for success of your team. And that is really how you can stand out for sure. If you're just adding into the buildup of the success of your team without needing to touch the ball every single time, that is huge. So that is how you stand out as an outside hitter in a middle and an oppo in the game of volleyball. Thank you guys for tuning into the podcast this week. If you have a friend or a teammate or someone that you know can really benefit from a show that talks about volleyball and how to improve your skills and abilities, then share this show with them so we can all grow together.